Buenos dias, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, muchas gracias to everyone for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, and the love and support everyone shares and sends my way. From the heart, I appreciate every one of you. Also, do please like, share, subscribe, and hype to the video to help support the message. And just a quick reminder for those that may have the time, do please know this Wednesday at 2 p.m., me and Gabe Morales are going to be having a sit down in regards to the book I put out. Thank you. Well, everyone, today I want to touch mainly on how small the world of the prison system is, right, in California, when it's considered definitely one of the biggest ones, right, in the state or in the country, excuse me. But at least when it comes to gente, how small it is, you know, and this ain't to glorify it on anything, right? It's just simply to be as direct with the story as possible. But anyways, this one I'm gonna take you back to '94. You know, I had just been busted. I was being held in juvenile hall, for possession of narcotics for sales, stolen car, discharge of a firearm, battery with a firearm, and pointing a firearm to a police officer. And anyways, as we're there in juvenile hall, I know I'm gonna end up going to YA. For how much time I don't know. And anyways, in this I'm writing this one girl, right? Her name is Lupe. We'll just leave it at that. And I known her for years, literally. And we're just friends. Now I'm not gonna sit here and tell you my intentions were buenas, cause I'd be lying to you, right? Nevertheless, we were just friends. She was a cool homegirl, not in the sense of neighborhood, just cool homegirl, right? Cause she was a norteña. So, anyways, I saw him in juvenile hall one day. Get on the cuerno and I called, and out of the blue, she just tells me like, "Hey, my brother just warned me, to be trucha with you, cause I guess you got two kids on the way, and you're this, and that, which they weren't lies, but I asked her who your brother is, cause it's obvious the individual knew me, right? So she mentions Smiley from Lennox. So I'm at a loss, like I don't know no Smiley from Lennox. So, anyways, I told her, I don't know your carnal. Never even heard of him, to be sincere. And she goes, anyways, well, he knows you and this. So we just left it at, he could say Misa at the end of the day, you know, just just a friend, that's it. And we left it at that. So I went around juvenile hall asking, who this cat was. Nada. And I went back, memory to when I was in the Arizona's boys' home. I don't remember nobody from Lennox there, or the times I went down with the family to visit. That some families were from crazy riders, and I meet nobody, right? So I was at a loss, but I just left it alone. Within time, I caught my what they gave me, to go to YA, which in reality it was nothing, right? Pretty much, we were over, we were able to overturn a lot of things, right? And anyways, they gave me 2 years, you know. So I would end up going once I get there, right? In Preston is where I ran across this individual, Smiley from Lennox. So at first I was like, nah, it's just too much, right? It's just too easy. So I just asked him one day, hey, you got family in Santa Rosa? And he said, yeah, his jefa, his sister, and he would visit a lot with kids. And so I told him, oh, is that right? So you know who I am, right? And he told me, yeah, Chino. And I told him, all right, homie, well, just to let you know, we're going to have to get that. So he's like, why is that? And I go, because you're over there being this, and that, right? When the intentions weren't even there and you're already over there pumping the townspeople to something that just ain't there. And he goes, yeah, that's my carnala, dude. Whoever it is, you spoke on something that it just wasn't true, that it was none of their business. It was none of your business to speak on. Anyways, we would end up getting it from the shoulders, right? But I still lay in my hot head. So it was like about 3, 4 times. It's like I would see the individual, and there was never nothing wrong with him, right? And make that clear. It was just me that held grudges, and I would see him, and it would rub me the wrong way. And I would tell him like, "Hey, we have to get a daily in," and it just became a point where I got tired. I got bored of it, to be sincere. So I left it alone. So that was that, 96. I got out, to be exact, in January, right? And when I got out, man, I would just last 30 days at the most. Well, yeah, 30 days, pretty much, or a little bit more. In March, I got busted again for the double murder and all that extra charges. And I would end up going upstate, And keep in mind, this individual, he's older than me. But again, I didn't know him. So we took care of what we needed to take care of in YA, right? So that was that. You hit the pinta, YA's behind you. That's it. I got there with that mentality. Quickly, I got shot down. I got my ear smacked back. It's everything we learn in YA is just we basically hit the system even more wet behind the ears than others. You know, it's because we have this mentality already there that it's wrong. So, anyways, as we're pushing through, as you guys know, I would eventually hit Ironwood and I would start supporting Terco with his Jardín, A yard as a whole, which is A yard included the whole. And then when I caught that battery and a weapon or attempted murder, however they presented it right on Güero, I would end up going to the hole. Well, in the hole, I was sealed up with Little Bullet from Delhi, and next door to me was Chato. May rest in peace from Ontario. He was Angelito Negro, and he was a fool, real cool individual. And anyways, as we're there, shower time, I see homeboy Smiley, from Lennox. I see him come out the other side. Keep in mind, I'm a management cell at Chato 2, right? We're in the last two cells. He comes out the other side, pretty much where Sapo's at from San Pedro. And I know there's none of them games to be played. So I don't say nothing. It's just, it is what it is. If I seen him, he seen me. I just barely came back from a battery on the yard. So, anyways, this is how small the system is, right? I would eventually go to committee, get kicked out the yard, and I had a mission at the time, like I mentioned it before, with the border brother Aguila, and it was with the fool from Cali, right, from Colombia, and he wasn't out there yet though, so I was able to be out there on the yard for a couple days, you know, and while I'm on the yard, Smiley starts showing off to me, like, or tries to, excuse me, like saying he's in direct contact with the Bay, with Sherm, and this and that, which I had already had communication with Sherm, and my utmost respects at this time, right? I had nothing bad to say about him, and in our conversations, there was nothing negative for him to say about me either, right? I knew what he was doing. It's like throwing pedraditas, right? I ain't say nothing, but he lowered it down. Definitely when he seen I came out to yard, and the minute I came out to yard, it was me running the rutina, me responding for the yard, and all this, right? But again, I didn't say nothing. Remember, I went back to the cell and I told Little Bullet, like, hey, fool, look, I'm gonna get at this fool like this and that, and whatever happens, right? And he was telling me to get at the Pili also, or Terco, or in this case, Sapo, I was there, right? Told him, no, I'm going to see where this fool's at. You know, all that throwing rocks at each other and me, that's just like cell soldier, right? You ain't going to do nothing. What's the point? And anyways, next yard, I would end up pulling him aside, right? And telling him, like, look, by this, I had already run whatever I had to run, you know. I told him, look, it's obvious you still got a chip on your shoulder for whatever happened over there. And with your carnala, whatever you think happened there. So let's make this real easy. we lay the yard down and then we answer up for it, or we sell up. Once we're sell up, you get at your gente, I get at my gente. We make it personal. You grab a pedazo, I grab a pedazo, and we'll stab each other. And he told me like, "Hey, Chino, I don't know what you're talking about." And I told him, "Look, all that throwing little rocks or little jabs, seeing if I buy it, I go to buy it. There's no point of it. Either you're gonna boogie or you're just gonna keep quiet. You know, there's bigger things here. You know, the route I prefer us taking it is selling up, going the correct route. You getting your pedazo, I get mine. We boogie till we can't boogie no more, till one says ya estuvo, and we whack each other, and we leave it alone at that, you know." And he didn't want no part of it. And when I seen he didn't want no part of it, I told him, "Look, fool, I'm done. I know you're not in contact with Sharon. You're riding loony from Clanton up in the bay. That in reality he's receiving and giving orders on behalf of Sherm, right, from the bay. He's up to validate it. But that's just how Sherm was, you know. It's like he lets his workers basically do what you need to do, and if I need to get involved because another carnal or a good camarada let me know. Other than that, you do your thing, right? Basically, you give power to whoever you want. I told him, you want to run a make of me? You know, I ain't nobody but a sureño, but I'll tell you, I know what I'm doing. And that way stuff stays over there, you know? So, anyways, we would end up leaving it alone, per se it nicely, right? And Cali would end up coming out, and it was Boogie with me and Aguila on him. Go back on management sale, I got out as Cartoon from 18 went out, had to whack him, remove him, and it was just a whole bunch of little things, right, that got involved before I took off. He took off before me. So again, with me, it was forgotten. You know, we hit Corcoran though, and in Corcoran there was an individual. I have talked about him, Largo, and from Lennox, which again, there was no need for me to speak on the issue. It was dead, but the Vato Smiley felt he needed to run it across his homeboy, right? For whatever reason. And, at first Largo was like, "Hey, homie, acá, running his level 12 BS on me, right?" And I just replied and told him, like, "Look, first off, it's none of your business, fool. And it's with all due respect, I don't care you're back there sitting down and validated. I don't know who you are, and I don't know why you feel you could get at me on behalf of your homeboy. I gave him the option. He didn't take it. He weaned it out straight up. Not only there, but in way. Now I'm not pressing the issue. I'm leaving it alone. But let's make it real simple. Before you try to butt in something you know nothing about, why don't you go ahead and run my name through Artie over there?" And Something that's not your issue could become your issue real fast. And he didn't take it lightly, you know. He tried to press the issue with Artie on me, and I would be like, hey, by Indio, what's going on here with homeboy? And I told him, ain't nothing going on. This is exactly what's going on. Basically, I told him the whole rundown. I told him I'm not bringing white drama over here. You know, we were over here in Ironwood. He threw out who he was working for and trying to make fun. Okay, gave him the option to make it personal. We dealt with it and leave it alone. He didn't want to do that. We got here and he's comadreando with his homeboy, and now we're here. And I told him I have no problem. Homeboy's over there in two right. I'm right here four right to link up, to sell up, and still go about it the right way. And Artie didn't want it. It's like, no, how you gonna do that? When you're doing this and this and that for me. And so I'm just mentioning it to you because it's obvious homeboy ain't gonna let go of it. So to conclude, a camarada didn't have no meaning to Artie. Even though again I don't know what his anger was. Sincerely didn't know him from the streets. He knew me, but I didn't know him. And MYA, it took a minute, but I left it alone. I felt bad for the individual. And in prison, I never pressed the issue. I could have gone to other Pilis and be like, hey, MYA, I stomped on this fool so much. I feel bad. I left him alone. I never pressed the issue to throw him to level. I never, try to go against to hurt him in that sense. He tried to do this. I left it alone. I let it go, and here we are. What Artie just said, he sounds like a comadre. This is the lavadero, right? The ones in the ranchos washing clothes. While they're washing their clothes, they're comadreando on the next person. And to stretch his surprise, right? Or Junior, however you know him, the homie that was speaking out for his homeboy, already got at him and told him, hey, he told me don't even trip out, let go of it, it'll get dealt with. You stay in your position, and that was that for me. It was done and over with, right? Again, I didn't like to smug homies up. I didn't like to do that. I liked us to take care of our business, of course. If there's a problem, it's easy. Let's sell up and deal with it and let go of it. There's not permitted no other way. But anyways, Artie would end up getting that homeboy, Stretch, Largo Jr., however you knew him right as from Lennox. And would tell him, hey, I want you to send word to right and let them know that Smiley from Lennox for being a comadre, a pedo instigator when they're trying to put things under the rug and he keeps pressing on them when he says he don't want no pedos. We don't have room for that. I want you to send word out there and let him know he needs to get hit and removed. So imagine that, as I mentioned before, your homeboy is utilized to shoot word that the homeboy he knows personally from the streets, from being traviesos as kid, needs to get hit and removed. There's more than one way for that one closest to you to be the one to actually be able to hurt you. They're always going to be utilized for them to prove their loyalty or for them to get close to you enough to get wet. Anyways, everyone, I hope I made sense on this one. The message on this one is, you know, whatever happens in way, I don't touch them on my way story, juvenile story. It just, to me, it's irrelevant. We were kids, you know, but it's just surprising how small the world is. Whatever you do in one place, it's going to always follow you to the next one. You know, always stay smart, be true to yourself, and loyal to your loved ones.